Hello, hello. Welcome back.
Hello. Good to be back with you.
Awesome to be back. Episode number 35. Welcome,
Yeah, yeah.
everybody. To Living Richly with Curo. We're so excited to be back with you for another episode this week. My name is Anne McCabe. I am the CEO and a partner here at Curo Private Wealth. And I'm joined, as always, by my lovely partner, Patricia.
Hello. I am Atresa Roberts, COO and partner here at Curo. Thanks for joining us.
Awesome. So, we have a fun episode for you today in light of the fact that it is the end of the year. We are finishing 2024, going into 2025. Today's episode is going to be Teresa and my's top 10 list of 2024. We've got some personal things, we've got some business, professional things to share with you, but we thought we would just highlight some of our favorites from this year. So, super excited to get into that. But before we talk about our favorites, let's do a little A team catch up. You are absolutely going first today because it was your birthday. So, we need to hear all about your birthday. I told you you don't look a year older at all. I think you're aging in reverse, which is awesome. But
Thank
how,
you.
of course, how was your birthday?
It was fantastic. So I celebrate all month. So listeners, viewers, feel free to send gifts. I'll accept them
And
through the end of the
flowers,
year.
chocolate, all the things.
But no, it was nice. I had a quick getaway weekend to the Poconos. With my sister and some friends. It was just a girls' weekend, and we did the spa. We did some pool time, a little gambling in the casino where I went up and then lost it all. Should have just walked away.
It's
but
gambling.
but
That's
but when I
exactly what's supposed to
say
happen.
lost it all, I'm talking about $40, right? Like we're talking about
Yeah.
me. I am not. We're not talking about huge sums of money here. But it was really nice. And then on my actual birthday, I went roller skating and had sushi with my sister and a friend. So it's been a good birthday. I'm feeling good going into this next trip around the sun.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Good. Well, I'm excited for you. I think it's so cool that your birthday lands at the end of the year. I'm sure growing up it was probably hard having your birthday so close to Christmas, or no?
It wasn't for my parents. My parents
Okay.
always made it intentional to keep my birthday very separate from
Yeah.
Christmas. Other family members, however, it was like, "Oh, this
Yeah.
is for your birthday and for your Christmas." But I appreciate it. I understand it's like a week and a day before Christmas Day. And I mean, my sister always thinks of it separately. She's like, "No, you get to have a birthday too, right? You get to have
Yeah.
birthday and Christmas." My friends are always really good about doing something that's just for my birthday that's not blended in. So I'm very appreciative of it. But yeah, it's hard being a December baby sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, you get a new year for your
Mhm.
birthday and a new calendar year around
Yeah.
the same time. So, you were sharing that this time of year is always a time for reflection on not just the calendar year, but the last year of your life and what you may want to do differently next year. So I think it's cool that that coincides with the end of the calendar year as well.
Yeah. So it's been a good last couple days. Fantastic. Just trying to power through all we have to get done before
Oh my
December
gosh.
31st.
Yes.
It feels like it's so much we've got to do in so little days. But I know we can do it. We're going to power through and we're going to, get ready for the start of a new year. So
Yes, exactly. We can do
stressed,
it.
but excited. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds
All
about
right.
right. We're always
Yeah.
crazy busy with
Yeah.
year-end
Right.
things.
So what's going on with you?
Well, I think my fun update is, as you know, I went to a drag brunch on over the weekend. It was my first
Yeah.
time ever doing a drag brunch. It's been on my list for like a couple of years now, so I was super excited to be able to do that with a few moms from my kids' school, and it was just a blast. It was a lot of fun. We had a nice brunch and had some mimosas and just watched these drag queens do some amazing things with their bodies. So,
Yeah.
there's that. I was like, "Whoa, how?" I had so many questions, but just tried to
Yeah. And
enjoy the show. So, it
now
was
was it
fun.
one of the shows where they, like, came into the audience and encouraged people to dance, or was it more like a performance?
It was more like a performance. So
Okay.
there were actually 2 rooms. We were in, like, the dining room, and then they would walk through to kind of the bar area of the
Okay.
restaurant where we were, but no, we sat at our tables, and they just
Okay.
kinda came through and, did different dance moves and things like that. So, lots of Christmas music and a few different costume changes, which was it was fun. The clothes are just over the
Yeah.
top. The
Oh, the
makeup is
clothes, the
over the
makeup,
top.
the hair, everything. Yeah.
Everything. Yeah, everything is, but it was really fun.
Oh, well, you get to check that off the list now.
Yes,
Glad you
exactly.
had a
I
good
have
time.
thank you. I have experienced that now,
Right.
so. All right, so let's get into our topic. I'm super excited to go through
Yeah.
our top 10 list from 24 is what we're calling it. So,
Mhm.
let's kick off with each of our favorite purchases of this last year. So, Teresa, you go first. What was your
Okay.
favorite purchase of this
I
year?
have a few of them, but I think
Okay.
the one that continues to spark joy for me is my Rent the Runway subscription.
Yay.
So decided to subscribe to Rent the Runway. And for those of you who are unaware, it's a service where you can basically rent clothes, different pieces of clothing. And as a professional woman who likes to dress nicely and wants to try different things, but also as much as possible have minimal impact on one, my credit card bill, but two, on the planet, right? And just overconsumption of things. I thought it was a good alternative. And of course, Anne, you were already doing it and shared a nice friends and family code with me. But I realized how much I love it. I love the trying new styles and then being able to send them back and get something new. So it's like every couple weeks there are more clothes arriving and I feel less guilty about it because I didn't buy any of the pieces. I mean, I would be broke if I bought some of these pieces because they're expensive designer pieces. Yeah, they're nice stuff that's available to rent. But that's the one I realized has made me the most happy over the last few months. I get so excited when a new order when a new order shows
Yay.
up at my building. So yeah, that's
I
been my
love
favorite
that.
purchase of 2024.
I love that so much. I'm happy to hear. Happy to hear that I was a small part of that
Yeah, it's a
joy
small part of
also.
it. Yeah,
Yay.
thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
All
Glad to
righty.
share the joy. All right, my favorite purchase
Mhm.
is a massive puffer coat that I bought myself from
Ooh.
Aritzia, which is
Oh,
actually a Canadian company. So I was like, they know how to do coats, right?
right.
Y'all know I spend, or maybe you don't, but now you will. I spend a very large percentage of my life in rinks,
Oh, yeah.
ice rinks. They are not warm, they are quite cold.
Mhm.
And, I was like, I need to up my coat game here because I would just roll into the rink for hockey games with like a normal coat and shoes on, and that is just not cutting it. So I got this massive long puffer with like the fur hood and it's adorable and it is so warm and it is bringing me joy every time I put it on because I literally at least this part of my body doesn't feel cold anymore at the rinks. Now I need to work on like my hands and my feet,
Yeah.
but otherwise it's so warm and delicious.
Oh, I love that. I can only imagine because I know you shared that sometimes those practices start at what, like 6 in the morning.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I can imagine going out in the cold, right? Because, like, for
Right.
example, last weekend was freezing, and then just going to sit in a cold ice rink first thing in the
Yeah.
So I'm glad you found something that keeps you warm. It does not sound like a great time, but I understand you're there with your hockey boys.
Yes, I know. It is yeah, it's cold, but it's fun to watch them
Yeah.
and yes, early. And now, my older son has practice 6 a.m. on Sunday. Now my little one has a game at 6 a.m. this Saturday. So we're
Why
gonna
does
be
it
doing
have to
6
start so early? Why does it have to be at 6 a.m.? Who
it's
voted
just
on
ice
that?
time. It's ice time. It's just hard to come by and there's a lot of things that they have to fit in. I don't know, but I literally drew the short straw with 2 6 a.m.
Yes.
activities on Saturday and Sunday. I was like, I can't even.
Jeez.
Anyway,
Yeah.
at least I have my nice puffy coat now.
Yes. Yeah. To give you a little joy while you sit in the cold ice rink.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, up next, our best dining experience or favorite dining experience. And I'll let you take this one first if you have one.
I do. So I actually had 2 pretty large dining experiences this year. So Wally took me to the inn at Little Washington for my birthday. It had been on my bucket list for a long time and it was lovely. I did have a hard time just with the value question because it is very, very, very expensive. But for our anniversary in November, we went to a place called the Restaurant at Patamac Farm. It's in Lovettsville, Virginia, so it's out there, It's so far. Don't just be prepared to go a long distance to get there. But it doesn't have a Michelin star yet, but I am very confident it's going in that direction, and when I say that, it definitely was not cheap, but nowhere near as expensive as the inn, and when I tell you it was one of the most incredible dining experiences I've ever had, and I'm vegan, as you know, but they did an amazing job. He loved his food, I loved my food. All of the vegetables were fresh from the farm. Highly, highly, highly recommend.
Okay, and this is the restaurant at
At Potomac, it looks like it's
Padamac.
supposed yeah, it looks like it's supposed to be maybe Potomac, like a play on
Mhm.
Potomac, but it's Potomac, I think is
Okay.
how you pronounce it. Restaurant at
Okay.
Potomac Farm.
Alrighty, note it. Add it to the list. I
Yeah,
think
you
it's
may wanna
funny
make, like, a
though.
weekend out of it,
Yeah.
and not
Oh,
try to
I've never even heard of the city you just named.
It's far. It is far.
Yeah. But it's funny that, you went to the inn, which is, I think, the only three-star Michelin
Yeah,
in our area, and you actually
yeah,
enjoyed the other one a little bit better.
I know, I know. They just got re-upped for their 3-star actually,
Yeah.
and again, it was a lovely experience. I'm glad we did
Yeah.
it. It was on the bucket list, it was lovely and great that Wally took me for my birthday. But I'm just a value person, and I'm
I
fine,
hear you.
paying money for a great experience, but it's gotta, like for that amount of money, it's gotta, like, blow my mind,
Yeah.
and
No, I hear you.
it was nice.
Okay.
Alright, your turn.
So I realized I didn't have a lot of big dining experiences this year that I normally do. I dine out a lot though.
Mhm.
But I think one of my favorite experiences was at a restaurant in City Center in Washington, D.C. called Seven Reasons. It is a Latin American cuisine menu, and the ambiance of the restaurant is beautiful. Like you walk in and it's immediately picture worthy, which makes me nervous a little bit. Sometimes when it feels too picturesque, I'm like, they probably, traded out the food for the vibe. But it was one of the, I think, the only dining experience where the food surprised me. And I love when you try a dish and it's unassuming, but when you see it and then you taste it and it's just like, wow, like I did not expect that to be that good or to taste like that. It was one of those. I felt like more than one of the courses we tried, I felt that way about like, oh my, it was one of those things like, oh my God, you got to try this. Like it was, the food surprised me, which I love at restaurants. So the service started a little slow. It took a while to get it going, but once we were going, then everything went really nicely, and I definitely would recommend Seven Reasons in DC.
Alright, I remember you talking about that on the pod after you ate there,
Yeah.
so definitely on my list.
Yeah, absolutely good. I can't wait to get back.
Awesome. Alright, number 3 on our list, favorite song or album from the year?
Yeah, so I had to consult my Apple Music replay because that's where I usually listen to music now. To be fair, usually in the car, I'm listening to podcasts. So I don't always just play music in the car. But apparently, the album that I played the most was Cowboy Carter by Beyonce. And I realized it's because there are like two songs on that album that I really love. And they got one of the songs got the most plays. So one called Bodyguard and then one called Flamenco. But Bodyguard, if you've heard it, is one of those songs that just sounds like you're supposed to be driving. It sounds like you're supposed to be on the road, like with a car full of your friends. Like just it's just such an easy vibe, fun song. And I think that's why I played it a lot. But that's been my top. But I do want to give honorable mention to Kendrick Lamar's new album, GNX. It recently released, like in the last week, but already it's up there on the list for me. It's actually really, really good. So I do have to give honorable mention. But according to my Apple Music replay, it was Cowboy Carter by Beyonce.
Beyonce. Love that she's in the
Yeah.
country genre now.
Yeah. I mean, not all of it
So
is what I would
versatile.
have
Yeah.
considered country, but country
Country.
adjacent.
Yes. More modern
Yeah,
country. Yeah.
absolutely.
So, speaking of country, I when I'm by myself or meal prepping on the weekends, I typically will have Apple Music's, like, top country playlist playing. However, in the car, my kids rule the radio, so to speak, the streaming music service, so to speak. So I think that the song that we have listened to the most, at least in the car, is Drip Too Hot by Little Baby and Gunna. And we know pretty much all the lyrics, including my 7-year-old, which is terrifying. He doesn't know what he's saying. He doesn't know what he's singing, but
He
it's
has
the
no
cutest
clue.
thing ever. But as you know, my 12-year-old like put the bass all the way up and we have quite a long commute to school in the morning and so we that's probably been the most popular song. He plays it before hockey, plays it on the way to school. It's a
Would
blast.
that be like his skate out song? Like, would he skate out to
Probably.
Lil
Right now
Drip
at
Too
least.
Hard?
Yeah. I think so. I
That
think
is
so.
so
It's up
funny.
there.
The fact that like Gunna and Lil Baby play in your car is hilarious to me.
Is it more hilarious that we play it or that I know pretty much all the lyrics?
That you know all the lyrics probably is even funnier.
Yeah.
I love that though.
So
I love that story. Like that's your top play for 2024.
yes, this is
But it's a great
living with the
song.
teenage boy.
It's on my run playlist too. It's got a great vibe. It gets you really amped up. So I
Yes,
could understand why he likes it, especially before a game or something. So it's a great song. Good choice. Good musical taste.
thank you. I will pass that along to him.
Let them know.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what's up next. Okay, favorite book. We'll get a little scholarly now. What's your favorite
Yeah.
book of the year?
So this was hard. I had
Mhm.
2 really, really, impactful, I would say, books, but I'm gonna give my favorite to a book called 10x is Easier Than 2x, and this probably terrifies you that I'm reading a book like this because anytime I come to
I'm
Teresa
like,
with an idea about, business growth, things we need to do, she's like, "Okay, just slow your roll.
right, because you're
Okay,
always like,
pump the
"Okay, I
brakes."
got it. I know what we're gonna do next year. We're gonna open an office on the moon." And I'm like, "And"
You're like, can we slow down, please?" But the reason I loved it, and it does sound a little bombastic, right? 10x
Mhm.
growth is easier than 2x growth. But the premise is the more focused that you get on your special sauce, what makes you unique, and the types of clients that you want to grow your business with, the more exponential growth and the easier exponential growth you can have. So the idea is that oftentimes as, business people, we're stretched in so many directions and that actually prevents massive growth. And so if we can get more targeted and focus and just be so much more careful with our time about how we're spending it, which you and I talk about all the time, that is when you can experience exponential growth. So it was a really interesting mindset shift, I would say. And something that it's a great book when I put it down a few months ago and I still think about it, probably not on a daily basis, but regularly.
Mm, interesting. Yeah, I'm still terrified, but
I know. I knew when I said that you'd be like, "Oh
I'm
god,
like,
what is she reading?"
okay, yeah. But no, interesting. It's an interesting thought, right? To that exponential growth. I like the idea of that. All right. So, admittedly, over the last couple of years, and I think it was probably from fatigue from CFP prep, but
Yes.
I haven't been reading as many books as I would normally do in a year and would like to in a year. So, I started experimenting with audiobooks because I figured that's a way to, of course, instead of a podcast in the car, I can listen. So one of the ones, and this might be an oldie for some people, but I've been listening to in the car, Atomic Habits. Because yes, because there are so many things that I would like to be doing, both personally and professionally, things that I just know will improve my quality of life. But I have been having such a start stop struggle, right? I started and can't stick to it and see it through. So I've been looking for ways to find some inspiration to really create those habits and create that muscle memory so that things just start to feel like a natural part of my routine. So it's been really helpful as I've been listening to it. And it's hard because, again, I don't have a long commute. So I get little snippets of it in the 10 minutes I'm on the way to work or on the way home. But it has been impactful in that way. And of course, I'm sure it's a popular book. Lots of people have read it, but that's really what I want to start. And I've shared this with you even offline, is just things that I want to put in place and just finding the stick to itness
Yes.
to see it through and give it a chance to really work. So that's
Yes.
my book for the year.
I love that. Do you ever listen to your book when you're, like, getting ready in the morning or, preparing
I
meals or
don't.
doing anything else? Because that's another I know you don't have a large commute, but that's another
Yeah.
time like, I always listen now to either book on tape, quote, unquote, or,
Mhm.
podcast when I'm getting ready in the morning because we spend, as women, quite a bit of time,
Mhm.
getting ready. So, may as well
That's
make
a
that
good
time
idea.
productive. Yeah.
Yeah, I realize it's often just very quiet in my house a
I mean,
lot.
that's nice too. That's nice too. Quiet time is lovely also,
But no,
so
it would be a good way to be able to listen or read more of the book, in those moments. So I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna
yeah,
try playing it while I'm getting dressed in the morning,
yeah, awesome.
which easily could take me an hour. So that's a good
Exactly.
chunk of
So
that.
it's a lot of time. Yeah, I'm with you. All right, you are gonna do our favorite podcast because we have the same favorite podcast of the
Yes,
year. I in addition to Living Richly with
of
Curo, may
course.
we
That's
add, of course, that goes
top
without
of the
saying. So,
list. Yes.
yeah.
But
Okay, so
we
what's our
do,
favorite podcast?
yeah, we do also want to shout out a podcast called Women Share, hosted by Leah Alter and Joanna Erisman. And they invite women like Ann and I onto their podcast to talk about their stories and the things that they've learned. And it's focused specifically on women in the financial services industry, which I think is such a powerful tool to get our voices out there, because I don't know if many people are aware, but if you are not, it is a male dominated industry here in financial services. So oftentimes when we're showing up at conferences and these workshops and things, we're one of the few of the handful of women in the room, unfortunately still. So it's nice that they have focused their platform on giving voice to those of us in this industry. And both Ann and I had the privilege of being guests on that podcast. So go check out Women Share, and of course, check out the conversations with both Ann and myself. But that is our podcast of 2024. So shout out to Leah and Joanna.
They're amazing.
They are.
Yay.
Okay, so this is a good one. What was your most valuable piece of advice this year?
This one was easy. We've talked about
Okay.
this before. I shared the glass ball versus rubber ball analogy. So this was the best piece of advice I gave. And if you missed us talking about this early on in one of our early episodes, the idea here is that we all, especially as women, have a million balls up in the air, and it is impossible to catch all million balls every day. So we are inevitably going to let some balls drop. And the idea is identifying what are the glass balls that if we allow them to drop will shatter and will be detrimental versus which are the rubber balls where when they drop they will bounce back up and they will be there for us to pick them up when we are ready to deal with them. So that is wisdom, I think, is identifying glass balls versus rubber balls and just being at peace with the idea that we cannot catch all the balls every single day. That was hands down the
Yes.
best piece of advice I got this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Ditto. That's incredible advice. And another one I got from you, or I think you shared as
Oh.
a closing thought on our podcast, but I reference it all the time and I think about it all the time. And it's that gaps versus the gains, right?
Mm.
So often we focused on what we haven't done yet or how much farther we have to go. And we downplay or minimize just how much we've gained, right? How much we've grown, how much we've accomplished, and how much we've achieved. So it really helped me in a shift of mindset because I'm naturally a glass half empty person. I always think about the worst case scenarios in things, which is helpful sometimes as a financial planner, but not always good for my own mental health and growth and development. So that was a really impactful piece of advice, is to focus on the gains in your life versus the gaps all the time. Love the gaps versus the gains.
Yay. Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. What was the most impactful habit that you have implemented this year?
Yeah, so this was a big one for me. I don't know if you've heard the expression "the Sunday scaries." But I noticed that around this afternoon every Sunday, I would start to get that little pit of anxiety in my belly about the week ahead. Like, okay, here we go. Weekend's over, Monday's back. Like, what's coming for me? So, what I had started doing was doing what I call just like my hour Sunday scary check in, where I just log on to my laptop. Because, well, let me take a step back. I realized that what was giving me that pit of anxiety was the unknown, not knowing what I'm going to face when I show up, right? Like what's going to be ready for me when I walk into the office. So by just taking an hour on Sunday afternoon to just take a peek, I promise myself that I won't be on longer than an hour, that I won't even try to respond to the things, right? I'll just go in, I'll do a quick review of my email, right? Of my inbox. I'll do a quick review of my long list pending items, and I'll just jot a few notes of things that I have to do like as soon as I start my day on Monday. Make sure you follow up with this client, respond to that email. And just by doing that little quick check-in, I've been able to just dampen that little little pit of anxiety in my belly and get rid of the Sunday scary. So then I'm like, oh, okay, that's not bad. I can handle that. Monday morning's going to be fine, right? And that helps me just kind of get it out of the way and get it out of my mind so I'm not worrying about it in the background. And then I can start Monday ready. So that's been the most helpful habit for me is to get rid of the Sunday scaries.
Yeah, I love that because oftentimes it's just the unknown, like you were saying. It's
Right.
it could be fine, like
Yeah.
your email box could be filled with joy and
Yeah.
opportunity, but you just don't know. And so yeah, our brains tend to think of the worst. So,
Yeah.
I love that. For me, it was being extremely consistent with my meal prepping. So every Sunday for like 2 to 3 hours now, I am putting country music on in the kitchen. My family knows, and I'm meal prepping. And mostly I'm meal prepping my food because I am vegan, but I also
Mhm.
eat a lot of protein. And so that requires effort and planning. And if I can get kind of most of my food done for the week on Sundays, then, when I'm making dinner for the family or if Wally's making dinner for the family, that can be my focus in the evenings. Because it's impossible. I basically, have to
Yeah.
make 2 meals
Right, 2
every
separate
time.
meals every time,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's impossible to do that, throughout the week. So that has been I did it here and there before, but I think this past year I have been really, really consistent. And it's to the point where if I know that I have something else going on Sunday afternoon, I will, make time or make sure that I've identified time over the weekend when I'm going to get it done. Cause I always, regret when I don't.
Yeah. No, that's great. And again, I am not vegan. I am mostly pescatarian, but I can empathize with how hard it is to dine out or to travel and eat well when you have dietary restrictions. And I always say, like, there's no way you don't do this without some sort of preparation, which I'm terrible at. I'm terrible at meal prep. But no, I think it's a fantastic hobby. I know you're like an overnight oats girl. You give
Oh,
out
yeah.
overnight oats jars as holiday gifts.
Yes, exactly. 'Cause you
Shout
just
out
get
to
them
the meal
done. I
prep.
meal prep
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 of those, stick them in the fridge, and there's brekkie for 4 to 5 days.
Yeah.
Done.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna try something different. I told my sister and I have both committed to removing DoorDash from our phones, like removing the app in 2025. Like that's
Oh,
my dry January.
wow, okay.
No more food delivery for the month. So it's gonna be a lot of prep in January for me. So
Yeah,
I'll take all the tips and inspiration.
I love that. I think the
Yeah.
main thing is just, like, identifying what you're gonna cook.
Right.
That's probably the biggest pain because once you've identified what you're gonna cook, then that drives the grocery list, and then it's
Yeah.
just a matter of, banging it all out, but
Yeah. All righty,
it's worth
cool.
it.
So let's see what else we got. Okay, this will be a fun one.
Mhm.
Most surprising market fact for 2024.
Okay, so there are so many. It's been a
Yeah.
fascinating year for so many reasons, markets, economy, politics, etc. But I think for me, the most surprising fact was that in September, when the Fed started decreasing interest rates, mortgage rates actually started to go up. And that was very surprising for most of us because people tend to think of the Fed controlling all the interest rates. The reality is the Fed just controls short-term interest rates and mortgages tend to be priced off of things like the 10-year treasury. bond market. And in the 10-year treasury bond market, interest rates went up after the Fed reduced short-term rates. So I think just that phenomenon was fascinating and
Yeah.
also very disappointing for a lot of
For
people
a lot
who
of people,
were,
right?
yeah, expecting for mortgage rates to come down.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely sure. People are like, "Oh, we can start buying now," and mortgages are like, "Hold on,
Nope,
rates are still high."
not quite
Yeah,
yet. Leading up to the first cut in December, rates came down, interestingly
right.
enough.
In
So if you looked on it
anticipation.
back then, yeah, but I think most people were like, "Oh, well, they're gonna come down even more once the Fed actually reduces interest
Mhm.
rates," and that just didn't happen, so
Well, mine, I think, is the headline one, is that the S&P 500 hit over 50 record highs this year. It was surprising to me because there's always this moment where it's like, well, how much higher can it go? Right? How much higher can it get? And I think it goes back to, I think we mentioned it in one of our market update recordings about the momentum of the market, and that over the long term you tend to perform well better in a portfolio when you continue investing even through the market highs. But the fact that there have been so many, that's almost a new high a week this year, right? That's a record high every every week. To have over 50 is wild to me. So that was my most surprising market stat for 2024.
all right. Let's go. Ooh, financial planning highlights. So we are going to
Yeah.
share our favorite client case that we worked
Yeah.
on this year. So you start, Teresa. What was your favorite financial planning highlight?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to not say the names. I'm like, don't
Obviously,
say the clients' names. They did not agree to
definitely
this.
not. No.
But yeah, so I will say I always enjoy what I do, right? I enjoy my work even when it's hard and when it's stressful. But there are sometimes those moments with clients that remind you of the why you do what you do. And I had one of those powerful moments with a client earlier this year. She and her husband have been clients of our firm for many years. And a few years ago, he had a pretty scary health diagnosis, and he's been dealing with that for many years. And it caused him to have to retire earlier than he wanted to because of the health situation. But she continued to work. And towards the end of last year, as the health challenges got a little bigger, she really wanted to be able to take more time to be with him and her family, and work wasn't sparking joy. Right? It was becoming more challenging for her. And she really was like, I want to be able to retire, but I don't think that we can. And we did all of the legwork, the hard work of having them, itemize the expenses and send us all of the statements and all of the documents and what you own and what you owe. And we did the planning, and we were able to illustrate for them that she could actually retire and that we could replace their income. So at 100% income replacement, so that they wouldn't feel different and that they still would not outlive the money. And this is even assuming another 25 years of life expectancy, even with his health challenges. And I feel like in that moment, and we were on Zoom, but I feel like in that moment, I saw this wave of relief come over her. She was like, "Are you telling me that I can actually quit?" And it was like, if you want to, yes, you can actually do this. This actually works. And she was so relieved in that moment. And it brought me so much joy to be able to offer, or at least help offer, a bit of that relief for a family that's had so many challenges, right, over the last few years. And to give her that moment. And I mean, she immediately made the decision. She was like, "Oh, I think I'm going to give them like my 30-day notice on Monday." And she left. She didn't look back. We came up with a really good income plan. We did all of the income planning. And I had to check in with her last month, and I'm like, "How does it go?" And she was like, "I feel so much better." So I don't know that I would be out of work forever, right? She was like, "But for right now, it feels good to not have to think about work, and then just be able to get up and deal with the other things in our family and with life." So that was a highlight for me this year. It was really that moment, like, wow, we really do powerful work, right? When we do it well, and we can bring that sort of intangible feeling to a client that's more than just the money they make or the performance they earn. That was a highlight for me this year.
Yes, it is. It's such a great reminder of, I think people when they think about financial planning or wealth managers, they're like, "Oh
Mhm.
yeah, you guys are running
Right.
portfolios and looking at rate of return." And yes, we do that, but we also can help families make these choices and spend quality time for who knows how long, right?
Yeah.
That the husband is going to be with us. So it's really, really impactful work. And we're just honored, right? Honored and
Yeah, absolutely.
grateful that we're able to be the messengers and, to do the analytical work to be able to share that kind of news. And we don't unfortunately always get to share good news.
Yeah. It's not
Sometimes
always
it's
good news.
yeah, sometimes it's not good news, but we
Sometimes
always
it's like,
try to
"No, you should probably go back to work."
yeah, exactly, but we always
Yeah.
try to do it with a lot of compassion and
Yeah,
care. So
absolutely.
that's awesome. So I'm going to talk about a new client couple that came
Okay.
on board this year. They were
Mhm.
referred to us, and in addition to the fun work that we did for them, they are just incredibly nice people, which
Aw.
we love working
Oh,
with
we
nice
love
people.
those. We love the incredibly nice people.
We love nice people. So just like fun, nice people to be around. And when we onboard a new client in the first year, we spend a lot of time. There are a lot of meetings. There's a lot of legwork that has to be done to get everything up and running the projections and talking about scenarios and getting the assets moved over, et cetera. But the reason this case was fun, they had never worked with an advisor before. And they also, the husband in particular, works for a tech company that is not bringing him joy. His job is not bringing him joy. Wife loves her job, wants to keep working, but they just didn't know. They didn't know, can husband stop working sometime very soon? And wife continue, does that work? They have a daughter still in college that they want to help through grad school as well. So just lots of financial planning questions. And they thought they had been quote unquote responsible with their money, which they had done a great job accumulating, but they just weren't sure if they were doing kind of all the right things. In addition, husband works for a tech company, as I mentioned, very concentrated stock position, which he had no idea. They had no idea what to do with, because it's not just a matter of busting out of the, stock position and creating this massive tax impact. So we had a whole episode on our podcast about how to deal with concentrated stock positions, but they were charitably inclined. So we opened a donor advised fund. We were able to gift some of the low basis stock into that. We were able to sell a bunch of stock without causing a big tax gain. So they got the diversification. And most importantly, we told the husband that he can absolutely retire, even as soon as next year, if that's something that he wants to do. So to your point, Teresa, just the relief and the clarity. And I think one of the things he said is like, it's allowing me to kind of, I think, show up with a better attitude, because at least I know that it's an option. It doesn't mean I'm going to make that decision, but just even having the clarity of knowing, I think, gives you a different energy about you when you show up to work. So that was probably my favorite new case that we worked on this year.
Yeah, that's fun. I like the fun cases. I like when they
Yeah,
have different things that even stretch and challenge us as planners and
exactly.
advisors. I love those. But yeah, no, that's a great story. And I think I love the word that you used about financial planning is the clarity. Because I
Mhm.
realize even when we don't get to have the really positive conversations, like you can do this, I think even clients having that clarity, because a lot of people, if they're not in their ideal financial situation, don't realize how bad it is. But I think
Yeah.
even having the clarity in those moments can be really, really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of goes back to your Sunday scaries, right? You don't know what you don't know. And
Right.
some people, yeah, for some people it's worse than they think. For some people it's better than they
It's
think. But
better.
the reality is, it is what it is. We have to
Mhm.
face the truth. We have to face the reality of our situation, and then we can make decisions, right? But if we don't know, then we don't know. So I
Right.
think yeah, having that clarity is really powerful.
Yeah. We like what we do.
We do. We do.
All right. So our last one, and of course we have to save it for us.
Yeah.
But what was the most popular episode of Living Richly with Curo?
Yes, I am happy to report it
Yes.
was episode number 26, and it was women and investing, which we're both really
Woo!
excited that that is the one that y'all voted. So this is
Right.
the one that got the most views, the most downloads, all that. So that was an episode in which we talked about women and investing and how women are underrepresented in investing, but how we're actually like really good investors.
Mhm.
And just, you know, gave some advice and tips for women who may be interested in learning more and becoming better investors. So check that out if you haven't listened to it. But that was our most popular episode of 2024.
I'm so glad it was that one. So
Me
glad it
too.
was that one. Yeah.
Me too. Me
So
too.
happy. Thank
So
you. Thank you to all of the listeners and viewers who watched and downloaded and who continue to hear us talk every week. Even though I hate to hear the sound of my own voice and knows this. So it's hard for me to listen to our podcast. Even when it starts playing on my playlist, I'm like, oh God, my voice. Um, but
you're
thank you.
crazy.
But thank you guys for continuing to show up for us. We hope that, you know, these episodes are meaningful for you guys.
We do, absolutely. Yeah, ditto. And on that note, please leave us a review and let us know how
Yeah.
we're doing. Let us know what you like. Give us feedback. If you have any ideas, please shoot those in the, you know, in the review section. Subscribe so you are alerted when we drop new episodes, which is every Friday. And lastly, please send in your questions to podcast@curoprivatewealth.com. We would love to answer your questions on our podcast. And if we do, we will send you an Amazon gift card as a thank you. So happy New Year, happy holidays. Thank you so much for riding alongside with us this year. That was a big highlight for our
Yeah.
years. We started a podcast.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us. And until next time.
Live richly.